there's been some kind of rumblings in the last 24 hours that Emmanuel Mosley will be coming back to the 49ers in 2023. So let's start right there. Nick Bosa, in his first podcast appearance, spoke about a number of things. Steve Wilkes, why the 49ers don't need to change a thing on defense. And then he talked a little bit about Emmanuel Moseley, and he told Richard Sherman that Mosley's coming back to the Niners in 2023. If this is indeed a fact, this is a big story. Mosley was scheduled to be an unrestricted free agent. He tore his ACL in week 5, which was first week of October. And I thought he was playing the best football of his career when he went out. I really feel like the 49ers, that Mosley's injury was definitely made them lesser of a defense going forward. And I think he's a key cog. What was your takeaway from the Dick Sherman, Nick Bosa conversation that resulted in that news?
If the 49ers can get Emmanuel Moseley back, that's, like you said, that's a huge get for them, because he was. I think you could argue that he was playing better than Charvarius Ward, on the opposite side. When you look at Emmanuel Moseley's career, from the moment he stepped into the starting lineup in 2019, he's always been a guy who plays at a very high level. He was an under the radar guy. He was an undrafted free agent, but once he stepped in, he plays at a very high level. The only question you have there is his durability. But as far as the player himself, Emmanuel Moseley would be a great get for the 49ers if they can bring him back.
And here's the exact quote from Bosa. He was talking about next year. He says, "We got dogs on every level of our defense, especially this year. I think Fred and Dre have taken another step, which is kind of scary. And then we got Charvarius back there. Emmanuel Moseley will be back, so it's only up from here." So as I said, Mosley's scheduled to be an unrestricted free agent. He did explain, or he did have the ACL injury, which could knock his value a little bit. John Lynch explained the Moseley injury and was optimistic about his recovery. He said ACLs probably aren't what they used to be. I think where you get concerned is when there's a bunch of other damage. He had a pretty clean ACL. We like Mose, who he is as a person, who he is as a player. He fits us well. That's a position where you always need depth. If he can provide that, I think it's a good thing for us. That's far from done, so that's not done, not close to be done, but we'll work toward that, though. So it sounds like he almost misspoke. Like he said, "Hey, that's done." Oh, wait, no, that's not done. It sounds like both sides want to have a reunion here of sorts. That, to me, would be great news for the Niners, because I think this is a really good player. I don't even care coming off the ACL. I really, I think Moseley could be, a key cog for them if they try to win the Super Bowl this year, and they will.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think, I understand that some other teams might be put off a little bit by the injury bug that he's dealt with. But for the 49ers and the depth that they have, and that what they were able to show last year when he went out, all those guys are coming back. They have the depth to bring him in and let him do the best he can. And if he can play, if he gives them 10 games, great, because you have guys that can come off the bench that can step right in. If he gives you a full 17, that's even better. So they're in a unique spot here where they can take a chance on a guy like Emmanuel Moseley that maybe some other teams can't. And when I say chance, I'm just speaking only because of the injury issues that he's had in the past, because the player on the field is one of the better players at the position in the league.
It's interesting too. The 49ers found Emmanuel Moseley as an undrafted free agent. And it's kind of amazing that you could have his size, his athleticism, play in the SEC, be a major contributor for his team at Tennessee, and go undrafted. But that was the situation. And, some guys have like an appreciation forever for the team that kind of discovered them as an undrafted player. Heck, talking to Azeez Al-Shaair, I got a weird vibe towards the end of the year that even though it really looks like Azeez is gone, and he probably is, there's a lot of loyalty there to the Niners. There's a lot of loyalty to the fact that the 49ers found him. That, so, I mean, maybe Moseley has that same loyalty. Is it possible because of the injury they could get Moseley back on a bargain deal?
I think so. I think that's kind of where he comes back, is it's going to be a little bit lower level deal. And again, I point to the injuries as a reason why. They did this a couple of years. They did this with Jason Verrett originally, right? They brought him in back in 2020 when nobody else would sign him. They were able to bring him back, after a solid 2020 season, because the market wasn't there. So, and they've continued. They kind of continued with Verrett, and Mosley is a guy who's been more durable, but he's kind of in that same. I can see the contract negotiations being very similar in that he just doesn't get the market that he should because of the injury history that's there. But as a player, he should be paid top dollar. It's an unfortunate situation for him, what happened in Carolina.
I'll say this. I really like, he came out of college. He must have been like 20, 21 years old. He's only 26. This was his 5th season in the league. So you're talking about still a relatively young player, 26 going on 27. That's still very much in the prime of his career. When you're a guy that watches the all 22, at least from time to time, what do you think of Mosley as far as strengths and weaknesses? Do you like him, as a man corner? Do you like him as a zone? The Niners play a lot of zone. The thinking, Jack, has always been, hey, if you match up, you play man. If you don't match up, you play zone. That's kind of an old school thinking. Now it's been replaced with, hey, if give all these veteran quarterbacks a number of different looks over the course of a drive, a quarter, a half, a game, just so they don't ever really settle into any kind of comfort zone. But what do you view as Mosley's strengths as a player?
I would say that he's a little bit stronger as a man cover corner than in the zone schemes. It just seems like he works better when he has a feel for where the receiver is instead of playing in space, and that fits where the 49ers, I think, wanted to go with this defense. I think they want to have a defense that can play more man than what they've done in the past. And we saw that a little bit this year, or this past season in 2022. And I think that's really where he excels. He has that ability to really drive on the ball, and he's always there when the ball gets there. And I think that's where he kind of separates himself from the pack.
Okay, so there's a saying that you can never have enough corners. An old buddy of mine who was a great defensive coach and no longer with us, great guy, the great Bill Urbanek, used to say to me, Larry, the key to pass coverage. And I'd be like, yeah? He'd be like, is fucking pass coverage. And I'm like, Coach, what do you mean? And he's like, in other words, there is no secret to pass coverage. You need players. And when you run out of corners, you're out, and there's no replacing them midstream. You're not going to find a good corner walking around on the street in week 7. The Niners experienced this a few years ago when they tried to sign Brian Allen, who was big and athletic and talented, on a Wednesday and ask him to play against the Miami Dolphins on Sunday. And Fitzmagic just was like, came out of every huddle going, where's Brian Allen? Oh, he's right there. And he'd like point over to him and then he'd go at him. It was unbelievable to watch. It was stunning, really. That all being said, how many corners do you need in camp to feel good about your depth there? I would say you need 7, because you're going to need 5 on your roster. There's a lot more 3 and 4 wides than ever before. So that 3rd and 4th corner, which may have just been a special team guy in the past and somebody who maybe you could hide if he didn't have great skills in coverage and great ability to mirror. Now you can't hide that guy. Your 4th corner's got to play. Your 5th corner's got to play. Heck, you could say the 3rd corner might be more valuable than your 3rd linebacker, the way teams play defense today. So if Mosley's back, there's 1. Charvarius Ward is obviously back. He had a terrific year. That's 2. Diamador Lenore is 3. Bust out year for Lenore. Sammy Womack's 4. So they've got 4 there. Now the question is, do they have 5? Or do you look at Ambry Thomas as a guy who may get cut or traded? What is your view of the world from Ambry Thomas? I mean, he's obviously got skill. He's obviously got talent and athleticism, but he's also obviously regressed from where he was 2 years ago. He was a total non-factor this year. Where is Ambry Thomas coming back? Are they going to trade him? Is he just in camp and maybe likely to get cut? How do you see Thomas's future?
Well, if they bring back Mosley, and you have that, and now what you have is Thomas becomes the guy that you're looking to replace. You're looking to find somebody that can step in during camp that can beat him. So that's where you either go out and you're able to get somebody in free agency on a cheaper deal in free agency, or through the draft. And there's a few different players in the draft that meet the 49ers needs at that spot who they might be able to bring in. So I think they're 5 deep, but they need to see if they can find somebody that's going to be better than that 5th guy.
Yeah. Ron Holder throws in a super chat. He says Mosley only played 1 full season in 2019, and a lot of that was on special teams. He's always hurt. Let him go and get someone new. What would you say to Ron Holder? I mean, there's a value to the player that comes through the TV, and then there's sometimes a different value of how that player is viewed in the room by the other players. And sometimes there's a third value. It's like how the fans view him, how the players and his teammates view him, and then how the coaching staff and the front office view him. How do you view Mosley, and what do you think to that comment from the guy who's like, hey, you know what? The guy's glass, kick him to the curb.
I get where he's coming from, but that's not something that I would worry about, considering I think that the locker room really likes Emmanuel Mosley. I think the coaching staff and the front office really likes Emmanuel Mosley. If they can get Emmanuel Mosley on this roster, they're going to go out and they're going to make it happen if they can do it at a number that matches their cap space. Again, it's about getting if you have depth at the position that can step in and be a starter for the player. If he's only going to be able to play 10 games or whatever it is, then you're insulated with that. And I think the 49ers really want to go in that direction. And I think if they can get Emmanuel Mosley on a good deal, you bring him back. This isn't somebody that you want to let walk out the building if you can hold on to him.
No, I think, he's so respected by the players. What I love about him too, this guy just throws his body around with reckless abandon, man. Now I understand what Ron's talking about as far as injuries, but that's what happens when you come flying up to make a tackle against the run. I love the way he plays. Now, he may out-hit his body, but he is a very strong player in run support, and he'll just hurl himself into ball carriers, receivers. To me, I love his play speed and I love his play intensity, and it may lead to some injuries. So you may need to be fortified depth-wise, but man, I'll take a guy who plays with his hair on fire like this guy, like Jimmy Ward, every day over guys who are kind of soft-footing it out there and just, I don't want to say anybody plays not to get hurt, but who just don't quite play for keeps like those two guys do.
Yeah, the ability to play with a reckless abandon is kind of what you're talking about. They're just going out there and making plays. I think that's exactly what this defense is all about, and that's what they're looking for, those types of guys. So that's another really good reason why Emmanuel Mosley fits their need on defense.